Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Angie Nuttle at the VIP Center for Business Women here in Indianapolis. And if you're joining, say hello. I have a very special guest with me today, Sherry Borshoff. Hey, Sherry.
Hi.
How's it going today?
It's going well.
That's great.
It's Friday.
Right. Well, that's better than it's going crappy or or the world is falling apart, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, so first of all, I am excited for you to share more about yourself to our community today. And I'm excited because not only are you a fabulous person and you've just got such a wonderful personality. You're very pragmatic. I love that about you. Just you're into the depth of your industry, and I can't wait for people to learn more about you. But I'm also excited about the fact that you are our top sponsor for the VIP Center this year. So first of all, thank you for that.
It's my pleasure.
We really appreciate that. So definitely a boost for us when you sponsored us. So, and we're looking forward to seeing you involved in our events. Like we have the Purple Life Conference coming up, and you're going to be a speaker there. Yeah. So, Sherry, tell us about you. Who are you and what do you do?
Oh, that's a big question. Who am I?
Actually, that's two questions.
I know. Well, I'm a wife and a mother. My children are grown. I'm very excited because my oldest daughter's lived in China for the last 5 years.
Wow.
I haven't seen her in 3 years, and she'll be here August 1st.
Yay!
So, I'm
Oh
so
my
excited about
gosh.
that. So I'm trying to arrange everything so that when she's here for that 3 weeks, only 3 weeks, I can spend as much time with her as humanly possible, you know.
Yeah.
So I am a businesswoman. I've been in accounting since birth. I won't tell you. It's a lot of years. I started out as a CPA, working at a CPA firm, and then went from that when my kids were younger to corporate accounting for a multi-unit restaurant chain. So I was a controller there for several years, and then a headhunter contacted me and brought me over to Indianapolis Electric, which was a electrical contracting firm. So a really strong background in cost accounting from those two experiences. I take on all sorts of clients. I particularly like working with the medical community, specialty doctors who don't have that backup of like say Ascension or Community Health Network,
Right?
Because they get all those tools. They essentially become employees
Right.
of those organizations. So, but the other doctors have seemed to be like left out in the cold. You know, if you're an optometrist or a dentist or some nurse practitioners sometimes have their own practice. Sort of their own practice.
Right.
But so I'm kind of like targeting those kinds of businesses and I have put together business service packages, which is unique in my field. I don't know if that's really about who I am, but it's some of the important things to me right now is to make sure that the people who need the help get the help, and I don't want cost to be a barrier to having somebody hire a tax professional to help them in their business. So,
well, I was scouting around on your website, and it says Indiana's tax expert, and I believe that after talking with you. I'm like, oh my gosh, this woman knows everything.
I don't know everything. I wish I did. I know a lot, but I don't know everything. I just, in fact, I mean, I'm in classes now because I want to practice in tax court. So I'm gonna sit for the tax court bar exam in November.
Great.
And so this last week has been an intense amount of education in tax law and ethics and practice and procedure
Yeah.
and all of that stuff you gotta know. And I'm exhausted. I mean, it's just a lot.
This is a typical woman here. We're all in this together. When we put our hearts and souls into something, we get tired.
Yeah. I just keep telling myself, God told me that this was the year I was going to do this.
Oh, well, when you get a God memo, you got to listen.
And I'm like, sure, as I'm learning this stuff more in depth, because some of it I know. I mean, the general stuff I know just from 13 years in practice. Right. But some of this other obscure stuff is like, oh, God wouldn't want me to fail, so
yeah.
I'm gonna pass.
Well, this reminds me. So right now, through the VIP Center, we're doing it's a faith-filled fitness challenge, and every day we have a scripture, and the scripture for today is Romans 8:18, and it says, "For I reckon that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared to the glory that is to come." And isn't that true in your situation? You're going through this right now. I mean, you've had a robust career in this field, and you're learning, so you're adding to that, and it feels like suffering right now, but the end result is going to be something pretty spectacular. You're going to have a victory in that.
Right. There is no creation without chaos.
I agree with that.
That's just the nature of how God made things.
Right.
I mean, chaos creates something new.
Right. Well, how did you, so I always wonder how people get to the place that they are, how they came to love what they do. I knew in third grade I was not going to be a math teacher, and numbers were not my thing. I mean, something changes when you put a dollar sign in front of it. I suddenly wake up to it. But to deal with numbers all the time, how did you even stumble across this field of work?
I don't know that I stumbled across it, actually. I just kind of always wanted to be, I mean, I have a teacher's heart, but I just always wanted to be in a professional field, and math and numbers and puzzles. I love to solve puzzles. Yeah. That all came natural to me. I went to work at one point as a paralegal for a law firm, and I worked for the tax department in that law firm, and I just remember the clients and how grateful they were to the tax lawyers. Yeah. So my original plan before marriage and kids and all that stuff was to become a tax attorney. So what I'm doing now gets me as close as I can get without actually having to go to law school and get the Juris Doctorate. But I just was in awe of those guys. You know, those guys were like gods. Not the God, but to the people that they helped, it was like, you just lifted this 10,000 pound boulder off my back. And I wanted to do that. Right. I wanted to help people with that. So I was studying accounting at the time while I was working for them. And so, I mean, life happens and you go a different way sometimes. Your path diverts. So that's kind of how I got interested in doing accounting. Hopefully I don't look as old as I am. I've been doing it for a long time. And it's always been rewarding for me. Like I said, I love to solve puzzles, and a lot of times accounting is a big puzzle. Yeah.
So were you one of those kids that you played with Rubik's Cubes? I thought so. Yeah. And you're the person that takes on like the 5,000 piece puzzle
Oh yeah, if it's any less, there's no challenge to it,
Right.
you know. I guess I do love a good challenge.
Yeah.
Throughout my life and schooling and so forth. I mean, I remember my mom even asked me one time. I was doing a speech that I had to do in college, and I was making like poster boards and doing a lot of visuals, and she's like, do you have to do all that? And I said, no, I'm just doing it because I want to make my point,
Right.
you know. And so a lot of times people will look at me and they'll say, why are you doing more than you actually have to do? And I just feel like it's in my nature.
Yeah.
Just because I want to explain it and have people
Right.
really grasp the concept.
Right.
So.
Well, and God doesn't make mistakes. You're fearfully and wonderfully made. It's very clear that He wired your brain to be analytical, and He helped create this in you. And so now you're just following that and living your life in that. So you mentioned the fact that you really like the challenges. What would you say is the biggest challenge that you've had? Whether it be, maybe it was with a client, or what's just the biggest challenge you've had as a professional woman?
Starting your own business is scary. When I started my business, it was 2009. I got downsized because the company that I worked for lost a huge contract, and they subsequently went out of business.
Yeah.
And I was disappointed because I really thought I would work there until I retired.
Right.
I built their accounting systems and
Yeah.
just kind of figured it would always be there. So in 2009, I was kind of faced with a what do I do now kind of thing. I was in my mid-40s. I guess I just gave away my age. But,
I'm sure somebody is watching and they're going,
yeah, how old is she? So my husband has been self-employed since before we got married.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the background there. I had the regular income.
Right.
It's hard to give that up, and very scary. And I'd been looking for a job, but the jobs that I interviewed for, I kept hearing you're overqualified, which is really code for we don't want to pay you what you're worth.
Right.
So I decided, if I'm going to make less, I'm going to make less on my own terms. And I had been interested in starting my own firm once or twice, and just never pulled that trigger because, being both of us being self-employed, that's a big leap.
Yeah, and it's risky.
It is. It is. Although there's a lot of demand for what I do.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have to turn people away, unfortunately, just because I can't help everybody.
Right.
But I like to help a lot of people, and I'm taking new clients, so especially small business clients, because that's where my heart lies.
Right.
My original business plan when I started was small business clients that couldn't afford to have a full-blown accounting department.
Right.
And we'd offer all of those back office services, plus me as a kind of outsourced CFO type. And then people started saying, well, do you do taxes too? And I'm like, yeah, I can.
Right.
I hadn't really thought of that as part of my business plan in the beginning, but now it's become like the whole backbone of my firm.
Right.
I'm a tax geek, because once you get into that, once I got into that area, I was like, I want to know more.
Right.
So
now that part I can see is fun, because you get to discover loopholes and here's where I can get a bigger return for my client. Or
tax planning is something that I enjoy doing with my clients. Some of them don't partake in it, and I don't understand why they wouldn't, but you can only offer, you can't say you got to do this.
Right.
So, but tax planning is where we kind of look at what your situation is, what based on what your income is,
Yeah.
what your tax burden's going to be, and then we talk about, well, here's some strategies to lower that tax burden.
Yeah.
You know, I just talked to a client the other day about, you know, maybe you want to set up a self-employed 401k or something. So then you're paying yourself first and not the government.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So things like that, you know, I've got this cool software that I just purchased that kind of really dives into and dissects out all of the possibilities.
Yeah.
And I love that.
So Sherry, you were saying that you're actually taking on new clients now, and you like to work with small businesses. You mentioned that you like the medical field, but what types of small businesses, you know, what other types of small businesses are you interested in?
Any type. I have clients in all sorts of fields. I have people who are in real estate investing, which is a big industry.
Yeah.
And it's complex.
I can tell you because I've been closing on 3 properties at once.
Oh my gosh.
It's a nightmare.
Yeah, that's a big undertaking right there. Just the closing processes, and then you've got all the accounting that comes along afterwards. And you know, so if my client gives me their closing agreements, then I can dissect everything out of that closing agreement that's you know, tax deductible, and figure out what your gain on between the property you sold and the property you traded that for, and so forth.
Maybe we should talk afterwards.
I'd be happy to. I mean, even if you don't hire me, a lot of times I just spill information all over the floor, you know, just because my husband, he gets on me sometimes. He goes, "You just gave away all that free information. Why do you do that?" And I'm like, well, if they went out to the internet and they searched it, they could probably find it.
Right.
You know, and I just
I
feel
think
like
it's
it's
also
goodwill to just, even if I'm not ultimately going to help you with your situation, I feel like it's goodwill to give you some pointers on what will help you with your situation.
That's what I love about you. You have this giving nature. There's no holds barred. You're authentic. You just share to help people, and I mean that's right in a line with Luke 6:38. Give, and it shall be given unto you in good measure, pressed down. And basically that scripture says, when you give that out, it's going to come back to you. So, you know, I love the fact that you're very transparent like that, and you just don't hold anything back. And it's rare these days, honestly. You know, you don't have a lot of people who are willing to just let go of information like that.
I mean, I don't want to spill all the candy in the hallway.
Of
but
course.
At the same time, I mean, there are so many things that I feel like small business owners just don't know.
Yeah.
And the information is out there, but there's not anything that's concise. I mean, even the Small Business Administration, which sponsors a couple of organizations that I'm a subject matter expert for, SCORE is a really great organization for entrepreneurs. They can really help you get the stepping stones going for starting your business. But they don't tell you everything either. I mean, because they're not all tax experts.
Right.
You know, they'll have me come in and they'll talk about what you need to think about on the financial side of a business, which is tax primarily, because you start a business, you take on a tax liability. It's just inevitable. The Small Business Development Council, the Small Business Development Council. I've helped a few people. COVID had some grants out there.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the hope was that I would help some of these small businesses and they would become clients even after the grant was used up. That didn't happen. I mean, there are a lot of people out there who's looking for free information.
Yeah.
Which, you know, I don't think.
And I think that's a mindset too. You know, I mean, a new business owner, what I've discovered just working with entrepreneurs is there's a lot of them out there. They're very frugal and even almost stingy. And when you're first starting out, most people don't have a lot to play with. And so, you know, sometimes their mind is closed off to learning or, you know, just even investing in themselves. But I just find that whenever you do invest in yourself, there's always a return on investment. Absolutely. When you do that.
Absolutely. So. I always feel like the two best investments a small business can make is in a good attorney and a good accountant.
Yes, I agree with that.
But I do get the entrepreneurial mindset of if I can do it myself, then I don't have to spend money on it.
Yeah.
The thing about it is, if you do it yourself, you're likely not doing it right.
Yeah.
And so I have a whole other part of my business, and why I'm taking the tax court bar in November is because this whole other part of my business is helping people out of a hole that they've dug for themselves by doing it wrong.
Well, there's probably many people out there right now that might be you.
I hope not. I truly hope not.
Right.
But I do get a lot of those tax resolution clients who I'm like, I'm getting basically hate mail from the government, and what do I do with this?
Right.
Well, don't ignore it for sure, because it won't just go away. I promise you.
They're pretty persistent, aren't they?
Right. I've gotten a few cases where they froze my bank accounts. What do I do now? I'm like, well, you waited a bit too long, because now you're going to have to pay me more in fees because it's going to take me more time to get your money back. You know, or to get your bank account unfroze so that you can go about living. But that's their last ditch effort, in all honesty.
Yeah.
That means that you've just ignored it for way longer than you should have. But there's always a resolution.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I will say is there's always a resolution. And fear shouldn't keep you from seeking it. Right.
So Sherry, how can people get in touch with you?
Well, my website is www.borshoffconsulting.com, BORSHOFF consulting.com. There's a lot of information there about me and my firm, and you can make an appointment with me. I think my calendar's linked on there, as well as you could send me an email and say that you want to make an appointment with me. You can call my office at 317-846-1005.
Right.
And if I'm available, be happy to talk to you. Typically, I make a 30-minute complimentary interview with a prospective client, just so that I can get to know what their situation is, make sure that I have the tools to help them.
Yeah.
Because, again, unfortunately, can't help everybody, but I can help most. And then we go from there, and you decide if you want to engage or not.
All right. Well, Sherry, thank you so much for being on Coffee Talk today.
Thanks
Appreciate you.
me.
And again, another shout out for Sherry as one of our VIP sponsors. She's actually our top annual sponsor for this year, and she is going to be speaking at our Purple Life conference, which is a conference for Christian women in business. And Sherry's going to be talking about money and finances, but she's going to be talking about it from a spiritual aspect. So you're in for a treat. You won't want to miss her. Everybody, we hope you have a fantastic Friday, and we'll see you soon.